Stars scattered across the void like cold diamonds, their light drifting for millennia before reaching the UESS Pathfinder as it glided through the darkness. The ship was a spearhead of humanity's ambition, its matte gray hull lined with sensor arrays and engines that whispered a low hum throughout its decks. On the bridge, Captain Rhea Morgan stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her sharp eyes locked on the primary holographic display. Every time she looked at the stars, she imagined them as doorways waiting to be kicked open. 3 months in deep survey, she murmured under her breath, lips curling into the faintest smile. And the galaxy hasn't tried to kill us yet. I'd almost call that boring. Boring sounds good, Commander Liam Holt replied, though his voice held that trace of doubt he never quite hid from her. He was tall, dark-haired, with the posture of a soldier who never really left the battlefield behind. I'll take boring over what usually follows when you start getting ideas, Captain. Rhea didn't look at him. She was watching the starfield. Twist slightly, as though the black canvas of space itself had a ripple running through it. Ideas are what we're paid for, Commander. We're not out here for a nice sightseeing tour. Captain, Dr. Arya Kwan called from her science station, her tone bright with curiosity. I'm getting a reading on the long-range sensors. Something odd. Energy signatures at coordinates 119 by 573. They don't match any known stellar phenomena. It almost looks like... She paused, narrowing her eyes as she analyzed the data. A boundary. Something structured. Kai Morales swiveled around. From his engineering console, one eyebrow raised. His dark curls were messy as ever, and a grease smudge ran across his cheek like a badge of honor. Structured? Please don't say it's another alien trash heap. The last one gave me nightmares. About half-melted toasters. It's not debris, Arya replied, her fingers flying over the controls. It's, stable, controlled. Think of it like a spatial distortion being held in place by something intelligent. Rhea's interest sharpened instantly. Put it on the main display. The hologram shifted to show a swirling distortion. Half a light year away. It pulsed, faint but rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The glow reminded Rhea of something alive. Liam stepped closer, his brow furrowed. This isn't on any chart. Could be a trap. Or a natural anomaly strong enough to tear the ship apart if we miscalculate. Could be, Rhea agreed, though there was no hesitation in her tone. But anomalies don't just arrange themselves like this. It's too precise. Arya, what's your take? I think we're looking at some kind of unmarked jump gate, Arya said, her voice almost reverent. I've never seen this design before. It's beautiful, Kai snorted. Beautiful is not the word I'd use for something that could spit us out in the middle of a black hole. Rhea's smile returned. Dry and confident. Or it could take us somewhere no human's ever been. And that, Engineer Morales, is why we're out here. Liam shot her a look. You're thinking of crossing it, aren't you? Of course I am, she said simply. What's the point of exploring the edge of known space if we turn tail at the first sign of something interesting? The Pathfinder approached the anomaly slowly, its shields humming as they adjusted to the strange gravitational flux ahead. On the main display, the distortion widened, folding inward like a dark iris. Power reading spiking, Arya said. It's reacting. To us, Captain, I've never seen energy like this before. Hold steady, Rhea ordered. Her voice was calm, almost casual, but there was a spark of excitement in her eyes. Take us through on my mark. If this is a gateway, I want to see what's on the other side. Kai muttered something about not having signed up to be a guinea pig, but his fingers were already dancing across the engineering console, rerouting power to compensate for the surge. 3, 2, 1, jump. The Pathfinder surged forward. For a moment, the stars stretched and bent like streaks of liquid light. The crew felt a strange pressure, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Then they broke through, the sight waiting. For them made the bridge fall silent. Colossal alien dreadnoughts floated in formation, their black hulls gleaming under distant starlight. They were nothing like any design humanity had seen, massive angular structures bristling with weaponry, their presence radiating authority and menace. The Pathfinder had jumped straight into the heart of something vast. "Captain," Liam said quietly, his voice low but steady, "we're not alone, and I don't think they're happy to see us." "Good," Rhea replied, her tone sharper, now eyes narrowing as she took in the sight of the alien fleet. "Maybe it's time we introduce ourselves." The silence on the bridge was thick enough to feel. Beyond the Pathfinder's reinforced windows, the alien dreadnoughts loomed like predators sizing up an intruder. Their hulls, carved with glowing patterns of deep violet and gold, shimmered faintly in the darkness. Each ship was easily 10 times the mass of the Pathfinder, and their weapons arrays pulsed with quiet menace. The crew barely breathed, waiting for whatever would happen next. Power signatures rising. Dr. Arya Kwan said softly, her fingers flying over the sensor console. "Those ships just locked onto us. Their energy fields. They're not like any shielding system I've ever seen. It's layered, adaptive, almost alive." Kai Morales, leaning back in his chair with forced nonchalance, muttered, "Alive? Fantastic. Maybe they'll chat with us before they decide to vaporize us." Captain Rhea Morgan stood at the center of the bridge, her stance relaxed but commanding, her dark eyes fixed on the largest dreadnought at the fleet's center. "Open a channel, all frequencies." The communications officer tapped a few controls, and a thin hum filled the room as the comms activated. Rhea took a deep breath, her voice calm but firm. "This is Captain Rhea Morgan of the United Earth Exploration Ship Pathfinder. We are on a peaceful survey mission and mean no harm. We seek communication and understanding." For a moment, there was only static. Then, without warning, the main display lit up with the image of an alien face elongated, with smooth onyx skin and eyes like black mirrors reflecting nothing but cold light. Its voice was deep and resonant, translated instantly by the ships. "AI, human vessel. You have trespassed into the sovereign domain of the Vraxian Empire. This territory is under our control. Your presence is unauthorized. You will surrender immediately or be eradicated." The words rolled over the crew like thunder. Liam Holt's jaw tightened as he glanced at Rhea. "Well, that was polite." Kai let out a low whistle. "We finally find intelligent life, and the first thing they do is threaten to blow us up. Typical." Rhea didn't flinch. She tilted her head slightly, her tone as cool as ever. "We weren't aware of your borders. We came here by accident. If we've caused offense, we apologize. But we don't surrender, not unless there's a good reason." The alien's black eyes narrowed. "You will obey, or you will be destroyed. You have 1 rotation to comply." The transmission cut without waiting for a reply. The silence on the bridge grew heavier. Liam turned to Rhea, his voice low. "We're outgunned, Rhea. Their ships could reduce us to vapor in seconds. We need to retreat." "Retreat?" Rhea said, her tone almost amused. "We've come further than anyone in human history, and now you want to turn around because someone told us we weren't invited." "It's not just someone," Liam said, stepping closer. "That's an empire. A massive one, judging by the size of that fleet. We can't provoke them." Arya glanced between them, her voice hesitant. "Captain, he's not wrong. They're dangerous, but they're also the first confirmed alien civilization we've ever encountered. If we leave now, we might lose this chance forever." Rhea's gaze softened slightly as she looked at Arya. "Exactly." History doesn't remember the ships that ran away. She turned to Kai. Can you patch our long-range sensors into their energy signatures? I want to know everything about those ship shield patterns, power output, cum traffic, everything. Kai grinned, finally looking like he'd been given permission to do something fun. Oh, now you're talking. Give me 5 minutes, and I'll have the secrets gift-wrapped. Liam pinched the bridge of his nose. I can't believe you're doing this. You'll believe it when we're sipping drinks back on Earth. With the galaxy's first alien data packet, Rhea replied dryly. A warning klaxon beeped sharply, drawing everyone's attention. Arya's face drained of color as she read the data on her screen. Captain, the central dreadnought is charging. A weapon. A big one. Options? Rhea asked. None, Liam said grimly. We can't match that firepower. Maybe we don't have to, Rhea said. Kai, patch a signal through their shield frequencies. Let's see if their tech likes being poked. Kai's fingers danced over his console, and a pulse of energy rippled from the Pathfinder. On the display, the dreadnought's shields flickered for half a second before stabilizing again. The alien fleet didn't fire. Instead, a second communication channel opened. The alien face returned, visibly less composed. What did you do? Nothing harmful, Rhea said smoothly. Just a little curiosity. We humans have a habit of figuring out things we're not supposed to. Now shall we talk? There was a pause, a long, tense pause. Then the alien spoke again. Very well. You will come aboard our flagship. Your ship will remain under guard. Attempt any deception, and you will be annihilated. Rhea smirked. Slightly. Sounds like an invitation to me. As the bridge buzzed with uneasy tension, Liam leaned toward her and whispered, Do you have any idea what you're doing? Not yet, Rhea admitted, eyes glittering with defiance. But I'll figure it out before they do. The docking clamps locked onto the Pathfinder with a heavy metallic thud, reverberating through the ship's frame like the slow heartbeat of something colossal. Outside, the alien flagship's sheer size filled every viewport a dark angular Leviathan stretching farther than the human eye could track. Its surface was alive with pulsing lights that moved like veins, carrying power across a hull that looked almost organic. It felt less like docking with a vessel and more like being swallowed whole. Captain Rhea Morgan stood in the airlock, helmet tucked under her arm, her stance steady but alert. Behind her, Commander Liam Holt adjusted the fastenings of his light armor, his jaw tight. He had not stopped voicing his concern since the Vraxians invited them aboard. This is insane, he murmured, glancing at the alien architecture through the transparent airlock door. They're giving us a tour, so they can measure us up before they decide whether we're worth keeping alive. That's one. Wait to look at it, Rhea replied, her voice calm but edged with dry amusement. Or maybe they're just curious. You know, like us. They didn't sound curious, Liam muttered. They sounded like they were making funeral arrangements. Doctor. Arya Kwan stepped forward, her excitement barely restrained. Her helmet visor reflected the soft, eerie glow of the alien docking bay. Funeral or not, this is history, Liam. Do you realize what this means? We're about to walk on the deck of a ship built by a civilization that's thousands of years ahead of us. This is first contact, real first contact. Kai Morales snorted behind her, checking the calibration on his wrist console. Yeah, and if they decide they don't like the way we smell, it'll also be last contact ever. The airlock cycled with a low hiss, the internal pressure equalizing. Beyond the threshold, the alien docking bay unfolded like the interior of a cathedral tall. Sweeping arches of crystallized metal and a floor that shimmered faintly with a dark liquid sheen, reflecting the humans like distorted shadows. Waiting for them was a group of Vraxian guards, their elongated bodies wrapped in armor that seemed grown rather than forged. Their weapons glimmered with a cold, almost surgical design. The leader of the squad stepped forward. His skin was a deep obsidian, patterned with faint silver lines that pulsed slowly, and his voice, filtered through the ship's translator, was calm but authoritative. "You will follow. You will not deviate. Any attempt to resist will be met with termination." "Friendly bunch," Kai muttered. Rhea gave him a sharp look, but she couldn't help the ghost of a smile. They were led through winding corridors that seemed to shift slightly, as though the walls were alive and breathing. The ship's architecture was unnerving fluid, seamless, as if it had never been assembled, but rather grown from a single seed of alien technology. Arya couldn't resist running her gloved fingers over one of the glowing panels. The surface rippled like water under her touch. "It's bioreactive," she whispered, awe threading her voice. "This isn't just metal. It's a hybrid structure part. Technology, part living organism." "I've never—" "Eyes forward," Liam snapped quietly, his hand hovering near the compact rail pistol on his hip. The Vraxians led them into a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows. The floor was patterned with spirals of light that shifted and reformed with every step, as though the room itself was watching. At the far end, on an elevated dais, stood a figure who was unmistakably in command. He wore no armor, only a robe, of flowing silver material that gleamed as if lit from within. His black, mirror-like eyes reflected the human's every movement. "I am High Strategist Oractel of the Vraxian Empire," he announced, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Without the need for amplification, you are intruders. Your species is unknown to our archives. Explain your purpose here." Rhea stepped forward, her chin high, every muscle in her body screaming for her to show no weakness. "We are explorers. We didn't know this territory belonged to you. We seek peace, trade, knowledge, anything that fosters mutual understanding." Oractel tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "Peace? Trade? You come uninvited, in a fragile machine, and speak as though you are our equals. You have no standing here. Your species has not been assessed. Your technology is primitive." "Primitive?" Kai muttered under his breath. "I'd love to see what they think of our railguns." Rhea shot him a warning glance, then looked back at Oractel. "Primitive or not, we are here. And we're not leaving just because someone tells us to bow." Her voice hardened. "We don't bow." The Vraxian strategist's black eyes narrowed, the silver lines across his skin pulsing faster. Arrogant words from a fragile creature. "Do you believe your kind can withstand the might of the Vraxian Empire?" "Depends," Rhea said, her voice even but sharp as a blade. "Do you believe the Vraxian Empire can understand what it's like to meet a species that doesn't scare easy?" A ripple of silence swept through the chamber. Even Liam blinked at her audacity. Arya's breath caught, and Kai gave a low whistle that was probably not wise in a room full of armed aliens. Oractel studied her for a long, tense moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he gave a slow, measured nod. "We will test your claims. You will attend a council session. There we will decide whether humanity is a nuisance to a race or something else." As they were escorted out of the chamber, Liam leaned in close to Rhea, his voice low and tight. "You just picked a fight with an Empire, Captain." "Not a fight," Rhea replied, her lips curling into a half-smile. "Just an introduction." The council chamber of the Vraxian flagship was unlike anything the crew of the Pathfinder had ever seen. It wasn't a room so much as a vast hollow dome of crystalline light, with walls that shimmered like molten glass. Strange symbols flowed continuously across the surface, glowing as if the very structure of the ship was alive and eavesdropping. The air carried a faint hum, as though the room itself disapproved of their presence. Captain Rhea Morgan stood in the center of the chamber on a circular platform of black stone that seemed to absorb all light. Around her, tiered seats rose like a great arena filled with tall, slender figures whose skin varied in metallic shades of silver, obsidian, and faint gold. Every pair of black, mirrored eyes watched her as though she were a curious but dangerous animal. Commander Liam Holt shifted subtly at her side, his hand brushing the holster of his sidearm, a silent reassurance rather than an act of aggression. Dr. Arya Kwan's face was alight with awe and apprehension, her gaze darting over the alien delegates, studying the ridges on their elongated skulls and the luminous threads pulsing beneath their translucent skin. Kai Morales, leaning slightly on his heel, looked around the chamber with a half-smirk, muttering just low enough for Rhea to hear. "Feels like we just broke into a VIP meeting and no one's offering us snacks. Try to keep your mouth." "Shut," Rhea murmured back, not taking her eyes off the dais where a tall figure stood. High Strategist Oractel, cloaked in ceremonial armor that glittered with embedded gemstones, radiated authority. His voice filled the chamber like rolling thunder. "Captain Rhea Morgan of the human vessel Pathfinder," Oractel began. "You stand before the great conclave of the Vraxian Empire. We are the keepers of order and dominion across this quadrant of the galaxy. You have entered our space unbidden. Your species is unregistered, unassessed, and as of this moment, unprotected by the laws that govern higher civilizations." "Unprotected?" Rhea echoed with a calmness that belied the sharp edge of her voice. "Sounds like a threat." "It is a fact," Oractel replied coldly. "Primitive species are permitted to exist so long as they remain within their boundaries. When they overreach, we correct them." His black eyes fixed on Rhea like twin voids. "Your presence is a violation. By decree of the conclave, your ship can be destroyed with a single word. Why should we not exercise that right?" The room fell silent, the weight of alien judgment pressing like gravity on the human shoulders. Liam's jaw clenched, but Rhea remained unmoving, her posture deceptively relaxed. "Because you're curious," she said simply, "and curiosity is what we have in common." A ripple of murmurs passed through the alien council tiers, the words sounding like hisses and clicking metal. Oractel tilted his head slightly. "Curiosity? You've been watching us, haven't you?" Rhea continued, stepping forward with a deliberate confidence. "You call us primitive, yet you speak our language. You intercept our transmissions. You know enough to fear that we might someday surprise you. So here we are surprising you." Kai grinned faintly. "Oh, I like where this is going." Oractel's fingers curled against the railing of his dais, but he did not interrupt. Rhea reached for the small projection device clipped to her belt and activated it with a flick of her wrist. A holographic display flared to life between them, a fully rendered model of the Vraxian flagship, rotating slowly in midair. Gasps and low clicks of alarm rippled through the council tiers. Arya saw several Vraxians exchange rapid, sharp gestures, a sign of shock, if her instincts were correct. "This," Rhea said calmly, "is what we learned about your ship in less than an hour using our so-called primitive scanners. We've mapped your power distribution nodes, your weapon arrays, and," she tapped a glowing point on the hologram, which pulsed red, "what we believe is your shield harmonics control matrix." "You lie," one of the alien delegates hissed, its voice like shattering glass. "Do I?" Rhea countered, tilting her head with a sly smile. "Care to test it? We could fire a single focused energy burst on the next cycle window of your shield frequency. I estimate it would get through, if only for a moment. Just long enough to leave a scratch." Liam's pulse jumped. He leaned closer to her and whispered through gritted teeth, "Rhea, you're bluffing." "Hard." "Exactly," she whispered back. "They don't need to know that." The council erupted in overlapping tones and clicks, an alien chorus of outrage and confusion. Oractel slammed one hand down and the chamber fell silent. He studied Rhea for a long, cold moment. "Your audacity is dangerous," he said finally. "Poor." "Admirable," Rhea replied smoothly. "Depends on your perspective." The strategist's eyes narrowed, but instead of ordering her execution, he said, "You will meet with the High Council to determine your species' fate. Until then, your vessel will remain under guard. Any hostile action will be met with extermination." "Noted," Rhea said, her tone polite but edged with steel dot as the humans were escorted from the chamber. Liam exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "You just stared down an empire, Rhea. I hope you know what you're doing." She allowed herself a quick, sharp grin. "I don't, but if they think we're weak, they'll crush us. Better they think we're crazy." Kai chuckled. Mission accomplished. What none of them noticed was the way a few of the lower-tier delegates aliens, with faintly different markings from the Vraxian elite, watched them with a strange intensity. Not fear. Not disgust. Something else. Something closer to hope. The shuttle carrying Captain Rhea Morgan and her team descended through a sky unlike any they had ever seen. The Vraxian capital world stretched beneath them, a sprawling ring world encircling its pale sun, a feat of engineering so vast it made the Earth's greatest cities feel like children's sandcastles. Colossal towers of crystalline metal rose like frozen lightning bolts, connected by luminous bridges that glowed as if alive with circulating energy. Rivers of light streamed through the air transport currents, ships the size of skyscrapers. Gliding silently along predetermined paths, Kai Morales leaned forward in his seat, his jaws slack despite the sarcasm that usually shielded him from awe. "Okay, I'll admit it. This place is insane. It's like someone fused a Dyson sphere with an art museum." Dr. Arya Kwan's eyes gleamed with fascination, her fingers gripping the edge of her seat. "Look at the structure of those towers. They're grown, not built. I'd bet my career they're made of some kind of self-healing crystalline biotech. This entire city, no, this entire ring could be a living organism." Liam Holt, however, was less impressed. His hand hovered near his sidearm, and his expression was carved from stone. "Living organism or not, let's remember where we are. This isn't a tourist trip. We're landing in the heart of a civilization that threatened to wipe us off." The map 10 minutes after we met them. Rhea Morgan, sitting opposite him, was calm as ever. She watched the capital with a calculating gaze, her dark eyes reflecting the neon blues and purples of the alien skyline. "Exactly," she said softly. "Which is why we need to play this just right. Show them we're not prey. Show them we're worth talking to." The shuttle glided into a docking cradle carved into one of the towers. The interior bay was enormous, large enough to house a fleet of ships, and bristled with security. Armored Vraxian guards lined the landing platform, their reflective helmets shaped like predatory insect heads. Weapons unlike anything the Pathfinder carried hummed faintly at their sides. "Look at those cannons," Kai muttered, tilting his head. "Pretty sure they could vaporize us into mist before I even say hi." "Then don't say hi," Liam said dryly. The shuttle doors opened. With a hiss, heatless light from the alien dock spilled in, casting long shadows. The crew stepped out, surrounded instantly by the Vraxian honor guard. Oractel was waiting for them, his silver-threaded cloak flowing behind him like liquid metal. "Welcome to Zareth Prime," Oractel said, his voice echoing across the platform. "You stand on the foundation of 10,000 stellar cycles of order and dominion. Speak carefully. Everything you say here will determine how long your kind survives." "Appreciate the warm welcome," Rhea said, her tone smooth as steel. Vraxian strategist's black eyes flicked over her like a blade, but he didn't reply. He turned sharply, signaling for them to follow. The procession moved through the capital's inner corridors, which glowed with soft, shifting colors. Strange holographic murals floated on the walls, depicting what Arya suspected were moments of Vraxian history, empires rising, alien species bowing, planets burning. They entered the central council chamber, a vast amphitheater that made the Pidila flagship's council room look small. Hundreds of delegates sat in spiraling tiers, their metallic skin reflecting the soft, eerie light. Some looked bored, others openly hostile. At the center of the amphitheater, a platform rose from the floor like the stage of a gladiatorial arena. Rhea and her team were guided onto it. The silence in the room was oppressive, as if the entire empire was holding its breath. Council of the Vraxian Empire, Oryctel announced, his voice amplified by the walls themselves. We present to you the creatures known as humans. They claim to come in peace. They claim curiosity as their reason for trespassing. Today we decide their worth. The delegates murmured, their alien voices blending into a low, unsettling chorus. One of them, a tall figure with golden ridges along his skull, leaned forward and spoke, his tone cutting. You are fragile. You have no fleets, no history of power. Why should you be allowed to exist beyond your homeworld? Rhea's gaze was unwavering. Because fragility doesn't define potential, she said. And power? We define that differently. We build, we adapt. We've crossed the stars in less than 2 centuries, what took your species millennia. If that's fragility, then I'd love to see your version of strength. The delegate hissed, his silver markings glowing brighter, but Rhea didn't flinch. Another voice rose, softer but sharper. A female Vraxian with pale, almost translucent skin spoke. You speak as though you believe you are equals to us. No, Rhea said, a slow smile curving her lips. Not equals. But we're not beneath you. Either. We've earned our place here, whether you're ready to admit it or not. Kai stepped forward, activating a small holo device he'd been tinkering with in his sleeve. A projection flared to life, showing live feeds from the Pathfinder, its shields, weapons, and most notably, a simulation of its railgun system. Let me give you a hint of what we call primitive tech, he said, his grin wolfish. A slug of metal going at a fraction of light speed doesn't care how advanced your shields are. It'll go through them like butter. The delegates erupted. In a flurry of alien chatter, some of them leaning forward, others clearly unsettled. Arya stepped between Kai and Rhea, her voice cutting through the tension. We're not here to threaten you. But we will not be dismissed as children playing with toys. Humanity is ready to meet the galaxy on equal terms or not at all. The chamber fell silent again, the weight of her words settling like a storm waiting to break. Rhea could feel the balance shifting. Some of the Vraxians looked offended, but others, especially those seated in the lower tiers, were watching with something like interest. Or Catel's black eyes narrowed as he turned to the assembly. The council will deliberate. Until then, these humans will remain in the city under supervision. As they were escorted out, Liam muttered under his breath, You know they're either going to make us allies or corpses. Rhea smiled faintly, her gaze fixed ahead. Then we'd better make sure they see us as the former. The Pathfinder sat in a guarded dock high above Zareth Prime, surrounded by Vraxian cruisers whose dark hulls gleamed like sharpened obsidian. From the observation deck of their temporary quarters, Captain Rhea Morgan stared at the endless curvature of the ring world below, a horizon that never bent down but climbed up and around, studded with glowing cities, rivers of light, and rotating habitats the size of continents. Behind her, Liam Holt paced like a caged wolf. We've been sitting here for 12 hours, Rhea. No updates. No negotiations. Just the kind of silence that makes my skin crawl. They're deciding if we live or die, and we're doing nothing." "Not nothing," Rhea said, her tone calm. "But cutting. We're waiting. And sometimes, waiting is the loudest move you can make." Kai Merouz looked up from the holographic console he'd jury-rigged against the alien interface, his sleeves rolled up and his hair in its usual disarray. "With all due respect, Captain, your brand of waiting feels a lot like dangling a steak in front of a shark and hoping it's a vegetarian." Arya Kwan, sitting cross-legged near the observation window, glanced over her shoulder. "Rhea's." "Right. They're watching us. They're testing our patience. If we break first, we lose the only thing we have right now, our nerve." Rhea turned from the window, her expression unreadable but her dark eyes glimmering with quiet confidence. "Besides, they're not the only ones watching. I sent a message the moment we crossed their anomaly." Liam froze. "You what?" "Quantum. Entanglement signal," Rhea said. "Encoded, short range, aimed straight at Earth Command. Standard protocol when you stumble across an empire that wants to disassemble your ship for scrap." Liam's brow furrowed. "Even with entanglement relays, the response would take 2 days," Rhea interrupted. 3 if they want. To send something big." She smiled faintly, as if the secret amused her. "Guess what time it is?" Before anyone could answer, the walls around them trembled. The faint hum of the Vraxian city shifted into a frantic pitch as crimson warning. Glyphs flared across the docking platforms. Arya leapt to her feet. "What was that?" Kai's console lit up with a flood of intercepted signals. "Oh, you're gonna love this," he said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. 3 unidentified vessels just dropped out of faster than light. Transit at the edge of the Ringworld's defense grid. And they're broadcasting a human signal. The room fell silent for a heartbeat. "Human?" Liam repeated. "That's impossible. We don't have ships that fast." Rhea's smile widened. "We do now." The alien communications grid erupted with frantic chatter, and then the main holoscreen lit up with a feed from the Pathfinder. 3 colossal ships hovered in high orbit. They were nothing like the Pathfinder. Their hulls were black as midnight, with sharp, angular designs that suggested stealth more than exploration. Their names were stenciled in stark white: USS Vanguard, USS Horizon, USS Aegis. Kai whistled low. "Well, those aren't your average survey boats." "They're not," Rhea said, her voice hardening. "They're part of a fleet the public doesn't know about. The Silent Fleet. I wasn't even sure they were real." The Vraxian guards in their quarters suddenly snapped to attention, their helmets shifting color as alerts screamed in their comm units. Moments later, Oractel himself appeared on the secure channel, his tone sharp and edged with unease. "Captain Morgan," he said, his black eyes reflecting the glow of alien control panels. "Explain this. These ships, they are yours?" Rhea met his gaze, her expression cool. "They're human, yes. And they're here because I asked for backup. You didn't think we came all this way without a safety net, did you? You dare bring warships into the sovereign skies of the Empire?" Oractel hissed. His silver markings pulsed rapidly, betraying agitation. "Warships?" Rhea tilted her head. "They're just insurance. I prefer the term escorts." On the holoscreen, the USS Vanguard rotated slowly, revealing its forward weapon array. A cluster of railgun cannons glinted in the alien sun, each capable of firing slugs at a fraction of light speed. It was a quiet but unmistakable show of power. The Vraxian Council immediately summoned Rhea and her team to the amphitheater. The scene when they arrived was chaotic. Delegates shouted in overlapping tones, their mirrored eyes flicking nervously toward the massive projections of the Silent Fleet in orbit. Oractel stood at the center of it all, his voice like a crack of thunder. "What is this display? Your kind claimed exploration, not militarism." Rhea stepped forward, her boots ringing against the polished floor. "We are explorers, but we're not naive. You talk about power, about order and dominion. We talk about survival. We didn't come here to bow." Arya's voice rang out behind her, softer but cutting through the noise. "We came to learn, but we will not be dismissed as primitives. Look at us closely, Vraxians, because the galaxy is about to change, and you can either work with us or get left behind." The chamber grew quiet. Even Oryctel, furious moments ago, seemed to falter under Rhea's gaze. Then the vanguard fired. It wasn't a shot of war, it was a demonstration. A single rail slug accelerated to a fraction of light speed, impacting a nearby uninhabited moon. The holoscreen caught the explosion as half the moon's surface erupted into glowing debris. Gasps and clicking noises filled the council. A few delegates recoiled. Others simply stared. Oryctel's black eyes reflected the distant explosion, and for the first time there was no arrogance in his expression, only recognition. Rhea's voice was calm and deliberate. "That was us being polite. Imagine what happens when we're not." Liam shot her a quick glance, half shocked, half impressed. The council fell into silence again. A female delegate in the lower tiers leaned forward, her ridged head tilted. "Perhaps humanity is not as primitive as we assumed," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Perhaps we have underestimated them." "Finally," Kai muttered under his breath. Rhea looked up at the hundreds of black-eyed faces watching her. "We don't want war, but we're not afraid of it. We want trade, we want dialogue, and we want respect. You have one choice: treat US like equals, or watch what happens when we decide to stop asking for permission." The silence that followed was absolute. The silence in the council chamber stretched like a taut wire, threatening to snap under the weight of uncertainty. Hundreds of black, mirrored eyes stared down at the humans, reflecting their small, defiant figures standing on the central platform. For the first time since the Pathfinder had stumbled into this empire, the Vraxians looked uncertain. Their arrogance had cracked, not broken entirely, but fractured enough for something new to seep through. High Strategist Oryctel Silver. Markings flickered rapidly, betraying what Rhea could only interpret as agitation. His voice, when he finally spoke, had lost some of its commanding edge. "Humanity. You speak of equality, of respect. You arrive uninvited, flaunting crude but effective weapons. You say you want dialogue, yet you show destruction." Rhea didn't flinch. "We show strength. You mistake curiosity for weakness, and we can't afford that mistake. We cross the stars to find others, but if others greet us with threats, we respond with resolve. You've ruled through intimidation for 10,000 stellar cycles? Fine, but we're not impressed." A ripple of murmurs passed through the council tiers. Some of the lower delegates, those with less ornate ridges and less polished armor, watched her with something akin to admiration. Oryctel's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Then, from the lower tiers, the same female delegate, who had spoken before, rose to her feet. Her pale, almost translucent skin glowed faintly under the chamber's light. "High Strategist," she said, her voice deliberate. "This species humans, they remind me of the stories." Oryctel turned his sharp gaze toward her. "Stories?" "They—" Delegate's mirrored eyes fixed on Rhea, and she tilted her head slightly. "The lost race," she said. "The ones who came before us, the builders. The ones who seeded the inner systems long before the rise of the Vraxian Empire. The myths claim they vanished or were destroyed." A murmur of alarm spread through the chamber, and Oryctel's markings flared angrily. "That is a children's tale, Counselor Vera. Do not insult the intelligence of this assembly." Vera didn't back down. "And yet this species, this Humanity appears from nowhere with weapons that ignore our shield, harmonics and drives that move faster than our earliest prototypes. They are young, yes, but their audacity feels familiar. I believe we are looking at descendants of the ancients. Rhea's breath caught for half a second. She exchanged a glance with Arya, who was already furiously trying to process what had just been said. Ancients? Arya whispered. Is she saying, "We've been here before"? Kai raised an eyebrow. Well, that would explain why we're such a pain in the quiet, Liam muttered, his tone sharp. He was watching Oryctel's reaction carefully. Oryctel's voice rang out, hard as steel. Enough! We are the guardians of this galaxy. We do not rewrite history for the sake of an upstart race. But his tone lacked conviction. Rhea took a step forward, seizing the moment. Maybe you don't need to rewrite history, she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. Maybe you just need to remember it. Humanity has been underestimated before. By predators, by tyrants, by empires that thought they were untouchable. And we survived. We thrived. If we share a legacy with your so-called ancients, then maybe it's time you recognize that we're not here to bow. We're here to shape what comes next. The room was silent again, but the silence felt different this time. It was no longer suffocating. It was tense with possibility. From orbit, the Vanguard's captain opened a secure channel. Captain Morgan, the voice crackled. We've received new orders from Earth Command. If the Vraxians threaten aggression, we're authorized to demonstrate full kinetic capability. Rhea's lips curved into the faintest smile. She cut the transmission, but the implication hung heavy in the room. The Vraxians could feel it. The humans were holding something back, something even their new, primitive weapons hadn't revealed yet. Vera spoke again, her voice calm but powerful. High strategist, I propose an alternative. We test them, not with violence, but with diplomacy. If they survive the test of the Conclave's trial of accord, they earn recognition as a free species. If they fail, she let the silence finish the sentence for her. The council erupted in overlapping voices, some agreeing, some hissing in dissent. Finally, Oryctel raised his hand, and the noise died. So be it, he said, his tone strained. Humans, you will face the trial. Liam leaned closer to Rhea. What the hell is a trial of accord? Rhea's eyes narrowed. I don't know. But we're about to find out. The trial was not what they expected. Instead of combat or puzzles, they were led into a chamber filled with projections of alien worlds, each one representing a different civilization under Vraxian rule. The challenge, as Oryctel explained with no small amount of disdain, was simple. Show us why your species deserves autonomy. Convince us. Not with strength, with wisdom. Arya stepped forward, her voice firm and resonant. We don't seek to dominate. We seek to learn. Every species here, every voice adds to the other. Universe's song. If your empire rules through fear, then all you'll hear is silence. But if you allow dialogue, you'll hear something far greater. You'll hear evolution, progress. Her words stirred something in the chamber. Even some of the delegates leaned forward, intrigued. Rhea then added, You call yourselves the guardians of this galaxy. But guardianship isn't about chains. It's about understanding when to let go. Let humanity stand, and we'll prove that your trust won't be misplaced. There was a long, heavy pause. Then Vera rose, her posture regal yet resolute. I vote to recognize humanity as a sovereign species. One by one, others began to follow hesitantly at first, then with conviction. Oryctel glared, but the tide had turned. He raised his hand and spoke through gritted teeth. The vote is decided. Humanity is recognized provisionally. But know this, Captain Morgan. The galaxy will watch you, and it will judge. Rhea. inclined her head, her voice steady. Then we'll give it something worth watching. Hours later, as the Pathfinder detached from the Vraxian dock, the silent fleet flanking it like silent titans, Rhea stood on the bridge with her crew. Arya was still in awe, Liam was quietly relieved, and Kai was grinning as if he'd just conned the universe itself. "You know," Kai said, "if this is us being primitive, I can't wait to see what they call advanced." Rhea smirked. "Then let's make sure they never forget us." The Pathfinder's engines roared softly, and the stars stretched ahead like an open road. For the first time, humanity wasn't just looking at the galaxy, it was being seen. And the galaxy was starting to realize it might never be the same again.